Hey, what is up guys? iOS Help here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to share with you guys my tips and tricks on how to achieve all-day battery life, how to improve the battery life on your iPhone on the latest iOS 14. Now, Apple released iOS 14 going on a week as of the filming of this video, so you're probably already updated, and you probably realize that the battery just isn't as good as it was with iOS 13.7, for example, the previous iOS. So in this video, I'm going to share my personal tips, as I mentioned, on how to improve the battery life and achieve that all-day battery life that we all want. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you go through your iPhone and delete any application that you're simply not using. Just go through your phone, even if it's an Apple app. A lot of us have Apple apps that are currently installed on our devices, whether we use them or not. And these apps do use resources, right? They use the network, therefore using the battery, or sometimes they refresh in the background. So if you have an application that you're not using on your iPhone, just simply delete it. Just go through your apps. For example, I don't use the Tips application. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the Tips application from my iPhone, as you see here. Now, you might have noticed in the past that Tips sometimes gives you notifications, and this happens in the background. So that's one of the applications that continues to run in the background. I don't normally use it, but it's always there. So I'm just going to remove it, and that should help improve the battery performance overall. Now, not just the Tips application, as I mentioned, it could be any third-party application that you have installed on your iPhone, or maybe a stock Apple app that you don't use. So that's the number one thing I always recommend doing after updating to a new OS. Now, the next thing I like to do is go to iCloud and make sure that I'm not syncing everything to the cloud if I don't necessarily want to. For example, I never sync my photos to the cloud, so I always have this option turned off. I do not sync my messages, so I turn that off as well. And there's just a lot of other stuff you can do. So for example, down here we have all these applications that are syncing to the cloud, therefore transmitting data back and forth, using resources, using battery. So if you don't want any of these apps to send and save to the cloud, go ahead and turn these toggles off, and this will prevent from these applications to continue to do that in the background, and that way preserving the battery of your iPhone. So that's another tip. That's something I always recommend doing as well. Another thing you just saw me do was enable dark mode. So dark mode on OLED display iPhones like the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max definitely improves the battery, not by a whole lot, but at least some. So you'll see slight improvements if you use dark mode all the time. I know a lot of you guys don't like using dark mode all the time, but using dark mode, especially as I mentioned on OLED display iPhones like the Pro and Pro Max, will definitely also help improve your iPhone's battery life as well. Now, another tip that I like to also recommend is using Siri shortcuts to enable low power mode before the 20%. Low power mode, of course, helps your iPhone get through that last portion of the day. Now, if you can enable this at a 40 and maybe a 50%, although the network performance may be decreased and the performance of the device may be decreased, the battery will last a whole lot longer. So how do you do this? Well, you want to go ahead and find the Siri Shortcuts application, and in here you're going to go ahead and type in automations. Now let's go ahead and remove it. I have it right here. As you see, I have the low power mode to enable at 40% instead of 20%, which is the normal setting that Apple will prompt you. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this shortcut and show you how to do that. So to create this automation that enables low power mode before 20%, click on the plus icon. Click on Create Personal Automation, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and right here where it says battery level, we're going to go ahead and select the percentage that we want this to be enabled. So you can scroll up and down. Let's go ahead and say 50%, and then we're going to go ahead and click Fall Below 50. Now, once it falls below 50, this automation would run on its own, and this will automatically enable low power mode at 50%. So click Add, and then you want to search for low power mode. So we're going to go ahead and search for that. So set low power mode. Click Next. Before you exit, you want to make sure no asking, so it doesn't ask you and it does it automatically, and then just click Done. Now at a 50%, when this iPhone reaches 50%, automatically should enable low power mode. And I've been using that ever since I updated to iOS 14. So definitely a tip I highly recommend you use. Another thing I like doing is also turning off a lot of the Siri stuff. I don't use the custom Siri command, so if you go to Siri and search, you can turn off this right here, the custom command, if you don't necessarily use that. I prefer using the side button for the most part. And also, another thing you may want to do is turn off Siri suggestion. This is also always in the background trying to find recommendations and suggestions to suggest right here in Spotlight. So you see all this stuff. If you turn this off, that won't continue to happen in the background, and it will definitely improve the battery performance of your iPhone as well. Trust me, that one is a big one as well. Another thing is widgets. Now, there's very popular widgets nowadays with iOS 14, especially some of these new custom widgets that are offered through the App Store. So this application here called Color Widget is one of the apps that I use to customize the home screen of my iPhone. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys enjoy customizing your devices with widgets, but with that, battery does get sacrificed. Whether it is an Apple widget or a third-party widget, for the most part, widgets do drain the battery because they're constantly looking for data and running in the background as well. So as you can see there, if you don't necessarily have to use a widget on your home screen, rather it's a photo or a utility, go ahead and remove it and even remove the application from your device. By the way, some of the widgets lately have been very glitchy at times, so I highly recommend you only use maybe 1 or 2 widgets at the most. Apple widgets are more optimized for the software, so I recommend those the most as well. Now, another thing I also like doing, of course, is going to the app background refresh. So right here, background app refresh, this option here allows all of my apps to run in the background and refresh, therefore, of course, taking up resources and therefore draining the battery. Now, I normally turn this off, but lately I've been using it only during Wi-Fi because I'm okay with that reloading in the background when I'm connected to a power source. Normally when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, I'm home and I'm also connected to a power source, so I'm not concerned about the battery. But if you're going to be out and about, I'd recommend turning this off completely so no app runs in the background. So if you're on a long trip, this is an option that you may want to consider turning off if you're out and about and not going to be having a power source anytime soon. Another great thing you can do to improve the battery is under privacy location services. And down here where it says system services, these are options that I always turned off right here. iPhone analytics, popular near me, and routes and traffic. I don't necessarily use Apple Maps or Apple services for these types of things, so I turn this off all the time. Therefore, that's not constantly looking for resources and not draining my battery as much. And significant locations is always tracking where you go constantly. Believe it or not, it's kind of creepy, but it also drains the battery as well. So I definitely recommend turning off significant location. These are all Apple services to improve the user experience, but I don't necessarily use Apple Maps or anything like that. I preferred Google Maps. And last but not least, another thing you can do is go to the App Store settings right here. And if you don't necessarily want your apps to update by themselves, you can turn these options off and these apps will not be downloaded to other devices by themselves or update by themselves. So if you're out and about and an app decides to update, that's going to take up resources and it could drain your battery a lot quicker as well. So let me know what you think about these battery tips. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.